Hello adventurers and welcome. In this one today we're going to talk a little bit about creating a non-player token. In the last one we discussed creating a player token, so in this one I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences of that, and I'll quickly go over some of the fundamentals. I do recommend watching my last video. I will do my best to explain everything in this one too, but the last one has a lot of similarities to this one, so I'll mostly be discussing the changes, but I will explain everything anyway and we can go through it together. So in this one what we'll do is we'll make ourselves Reno Jackson, and we'll click on player character here, and we'll click non-player character, which is also referred to as an NPC. So if I'm saying NPC, that's what I'm talking about. Now, much like with Elise here that we did in the last video, Reno here is going to have a lot of similarities. You'll notice that the sheet size is smaller and that there isn't as many options, but that's just to make the get rid of the character side of it and just bring in the non-player side of it, things that are more important for a non-player. So you have your fundamentals like strength, which is the same menu that you had here. These are the same things. There's no real difference, so this is all the same. You can apply your stats, and you have your skills, and you can add your proficiencies by putting a tick on the boxes. When it comes to this, you can add things like, so of course you can do your strength. So I don't know, let's yeah, sure. So let's have our stats here. You can see in the same as in the last video, you can see all the changes here that have come up thanks to my proficiencies and my general skill checks. Now, what you'll notice is a little bit different is there's no hit dice here. There is armor class and movement, but there's no initiative score. Things like that don't exist. There is an inbuilt proficiency, but this is, instead of dictated by the level, this is dictated by the CR, which is the challenge rating of the character. Now, every pre-built character, so in all the books, every single pre-built character has a challenge rating. So it's Reno Jackson, so he's probably like a half. But if you're familiar with World of Warcraft. No, so like Reno, let's just say he's like 6, okay? So the proficiency goes up. That's the XP for defeating him. That's the XP there at the top that your players would get for defeating him. You can set his size here, but this is pre-preordained here. You can set the alignment. So let's just say neutral for the moment. You can set what it is, what creature type it is. So in this case, it would just be a humanoid. You can add if it's a swarm or like the custom type. So instead of humanoid, you could just have, just literally anything. A guy. Like it'll just say a guy there when I update this. So you can put whatever you want in there. I would recommend humanoid. And then for this source, just whatever book it is. In this case, World of Warcraft. Hit points the same as in previous, but this time you'll see that it has a health formula. So if I was to put in my health formula, you usually see that on the stat block in the manuals. But let's say it's 2d8 plus 10. Okay, so I put 2d8 plus 10. I click on hit points. Now it rolls his health for me. It doesn't do it in chat. Okay, so it just does it here. I do it again. 19. I do it again. 12, 16. So 2d8 plus 10. Highest it can go is 26. 21's pretty good. So you can roll the individuality of each creature. So if you're putting out like 20 zombies, it's nice to have it automatically kind of update all that information. Now, I use a module that I'll explain in another video, but effectively what it does is it pre-rolls that every time you drag it out. So if I drag out 10 zombies, each one has its own unique health pool, which is pretty cool. Now, I'm just talking D&D here, but you could be potentially talking about different things like a variety of modules from World of Warcraft, from Warhammer. I've got WoW on the mind. From Warhammer, you can have a variety of modules, things like that as well. That all applies here as well. It's just that the sheet may look different because I'm just using D&D 5e, but this of course applies to everything. Of course, you can do the same thing as before, so you can click there. I have my assets folder here, so I'll just go to Reno. I'll take his picture. Thank you again to Blizzard. I'm just, so I've got his picture here. And you can go to prototype like we did in the last one, where you can see that this is quite similar. So in the prototype, I could always just change it to Reno so that when I place him on the field, instead of saying Reno Jackson, which is his name here, it'll just say Reno. Display name, I usually have hovered by owner. Link actor data, in this case I would, but if I was playing a zombie or something, or skeletons, or like where there's a ton of them, I wouldn't link the actor data. He's generally quite friendly. Image is the token image, so not the image here, but the image when you drag Elise out here, you can see she has a token around her. I made one for Elise. I'll also do a video on how to make tokens. But another thing you can do is I have tests here. I've got my Reno Jackson token, so I'll put that in. Wildcard is just, that's a module, don't worry. The size is the size of the creature, so this time it's medium, so it'll just obey that. Vision probably has dim vision, so I'll give him 30 feet of dim vision. Has vision, yes. Again, I've gone over this in the last few videos, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I've done it twice now. Hovered by owner, and for the attributes, I'll use attributes HP, but you can always have different things. So like how many spells he has left in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If the attributes of encumbrance, how much weight he has on him or anything like that. There's a ton of values here about wisdom, intelligence, like all of the saving throws, proficiencies, all of that. As you can use these as reminders if you want. For me, I just like to have the health there. So if I do update token and I place Reno out, you can see he has his name and his health. And he has a blue box around him because he is friendly. Features. Much like with Elise has a lot of features for the class, the active abilities and stuff. But what I'll do here is I'm going to open up one of the pre-built monsters so that I can show you. Oops, sorry. Monsters, there we go. So I can show you. So let's just take a random bugbear, okay? The features are that they have a Morning Star and a Javelin. That's the weapons they have, so I could always just drag those across. One of the actions they get is that they have a surprise attack, that they're really good at surprises, like surprise attacks. So if they were to have the surprise attack, if I put that in, that is an action. And now I can quickly click on my features list from attributes, go to features, and see all of the actions that Reno would have available. Brute, hide armor, and shield. So if I've got the hide armor, the shield, you can see that it updates the armor class. It says why, because it's got hide armor and shield on. You can also switch that to a flat number if you want to, or a neutral, natural armor for Dragonborn, for example, would have natural armor. Mage armor is the spell. Draconic resilience for sorcerers. Monks, barbarians, their own armor defense. Custom formula as well if you want to put your own formulas in. So it adds all of this automatically. It automatically assumes it's equipped if you put it onto an NPC, whereas if you put it onto a PC, like Elise here, you would need to equip the things in her inventory by clicking this to make it equipped or not equipped. Spellbook, quite similar. So let's see if we have a mage of some kind. Spellbook is quite similar. So spells, obviously, if you've got your spells. For NPCs, though, you can set what level spellcaster they are. So let's say it's a 3rd level spellcaster. Automatically fills out the 1st and 2nd level and gives us our spell slots. You can pick which modifier to use for your spell casting, and then you can always just add various different things. Biography, then, effects, don't worry about it. That's something we'll discuss later in a module module breakdown. And biography then is just the information about the character. So you have that information there. And I mean, effectively, that's kind of it. The main breakdown is almost identical to Elise here that we had. Just the main differences are up at the top here, you see you've got legendary actions and resistances. Now, Elise doesn't have that, where Elise has her death saves, exhaustion, and inspiration. Reno has legendary actions and resistances. What that effectively means is that you can, certain creatures may have legendary actions. So if you're playing against a much higher level enemy, usually like a boss of some kind, generally, they would have a legendary action that they can take, or a legendary resistance that they have, even layer actions. And these are reminders for you, the DM or GM, to use these fundamentally. The size is the size of the token, size of the character. So, sorry, apologies. So like that's how big the token is. So Reno's just medium, so medium. But it does automatically update that information for you. Senses are things like the sight, like blind sight, dark vision. So say 30 feet of dark vision, even though it makes no sense. What the unit of measurement is. The special senses would be like passive perception. And then you just work out what your passive perception is, throw that in, and it'll say it there for you. Languages, of course, are the same. This is quite similar to before. Immunities, resistances, vulnerabilities, again, just like before. This is where you tick these boxes and it automatically calculates for you then. If you're immune to damage, you won't take the damage at all. If you're resistant, you take half damage. If you're vulnerable to it, you take extra damage. Condition immunities then, like perhaps certain monsters are immune to being blinded because they don't have eyes, or they're immune to the grappled condition because they're just huge. Things like that. That's effectively it. You just tick these. If you've got a sheet that you're importing information from, that's where you would put it. If you're making your own monster, then you just tick the boxes that are applicable to that. Special traits are things like feats that they may have, the original class that they've got. If they're using like Halfling Lucky or Powerful Build or even Elven Accuracy in certain cases, they may have this and it automatically applies that information to your sheet. And global bonuses is just the bonus that you apply to all of your stats. So every time you take a melee weapon attack, that's the bonus that it'll add to it. Every time you do melee weapon damage, that's the bonus it'll add to it. If you've got a special weapon, like a sword that's a +1 sword, you just make that modifier on the sword rather than doing that here on the overall sheet. But I will go over a guide on how to make an item, and in that guide I will explain what everything means in the item sheet. But effectively, that's really it. That's the major differences. The rest is effectively the same. It's everything is just as it is on Elise's sheet here. You just make the character the way you want to make it, or the way that the stat block may suggest, and then off you go. And then you can have Elise and you can have Reno, and they can fight each other, and that's it. So simply at that point, if you've got your characters, you can highlight them both, select the weapons thing. Ooh, I have some unknown combatants. I must have been doing some practice. So you target, like say Reno, for example. They can roll for their initiative, and of course she's first. So Elise could then go to her inventory. She swings with her greatsword. It pops up in chat. Click attack. Click normal. 6 doesn't hit because we know Reno's AC is 16. So we would simply move to the next turn. Reno's turn. And I don't know that he has anything. He does. He has the Morning Star. Perfect. We attack with that. Normal. 9. This will go on forever. But basically, there it is. You have your tokens ready to go, ready for combat. And they're happy to continue, happy to play. So we have our player that we created in the last episode. We have our non-player that we have here. So in the next video, won't be a very long one, the next one, but it will just go over what vehicles are and how to use those. It's a very simple, very straightforward process. And like I said, there's a lot of modules that help with that. So what I'll try and do somewhere just after the vehicles one, I'll do a module breakdown of what all of that kind of means. And then I'll start another series about different, unique, and good modules that to use, starting from the start about the ones that I really, really insist that people use. And then beyond that, just the ones that are somewhat important or maybe useful. In my other game, I use like 80 modules or something, or 85 modules. So I use quite a lot. I really, really utilize that feature. So it should be a long running series anyway. That's basically it. So if you have any questions, throw it in the comments. If you guys see the comments and I haven't responded to it, but you know the answer, feel free to help each other out as well. Always a big fan of a good, strong community. So hopefully that helps somebody. That's effectively it. Once we get through vehicles, then we go into the juicy stuff of what Foundry can actually really do. And that's really, really exciting. So hopefully that helps. If there's anything else you need, let me know in the comments. Thank you and have a great day.